Interested in learning about wine, but not sure where to start? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. I'm your host, Haley Bowman, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm a wine enthusiast turned wine educator and founder of the Seattle-based wine tasting business, Cork and Fizz. It is my goal to build your confidence in wine by making it approachable and lots of fun. You can expect to learn everything from how to describe your favorite wine to what to pair with dinner tonight, and so much more. Whether you're a casual wine sipper or a total cork dork like myself, this podcast is for you. So grab yourself a glass and let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cork and Fizz Guide to Wine podcast. Today, I'll be chatting with Desiree Harrison-Brown. Desiree left her 9-to-5 corporate career in project management to pursue her love for wine education. She created WINO NOIRE, a lifestyle brand and community that aims to make wine accessible to a diverse population. A key pillar of WINO NOIRE is to highlight Black and women-owned wine brands, which we love here over at Cork and Fizz. You may have seen her on Instagram, where she shares educational and fun wine content along with her experiences. Her goal is to be the resource that she wished that she had when she was first learning about wine. She is also the founder of The WINO Shop. This is an online retailer of wine accessories and wine apparel for the modern wine lover. Now, before we get into it, I want to give you a quick reminder. If you are not on my mailing list yet, I would love for you to join. When you join, you will get a free shopping guide that has 15 of my favorite wines under $15. All you need to do, head to corkandfizz.com, scroll down to the bottom, and there'll be a little section where you can join the mailing list. Once you sign up, that guide will be sent to you, and then I send out a weekly newsletter. It's filled with wine tips and recommendations, special offers, and so much more. And of course, be sure to check out my virtual tasting club, The Cork Crew. We get together every month to try new wines and learn from others in the wine world. You can head to my website, www.corkandfizz.com/thecorkcrew, and use code WINE101 when you sign up to get your first month free. Now, without further ado, let's get into the interview. I'm so glad to have you. Thanks for agreeing to be on the podcast.
No, thanks so much for reaching out and wanting to have me. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Wonderful. Well, why don't we just kind of jump into it? I always like to kind of start off with just, why don't you, I do a little intro for you, but I feel like it's always better that you do your own intro a little bit too. So you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure thing. So I'm Desiree Harrison-Brown. I'm a wine educator, a content creator, and an entrepreneur. I create tons of wine content on social media through my platform, WINO NOIRE, and I also run the WINO Shop. It's an online apparel shop. I know we're going to talk more about it during the interview, but it's one of my passion projects. And then I teach at Napa Valley Wine Academy. So my life really revolves around all things wine.
Oh, I love it. That sounds like a perfect life to me. All right. Well, why don't we dive into a little bit about, I find everybody gets to this place in a different way. So what originally sparked your interest in wine?
So, I didn't grow up with wine on the dinner table. My parents weren't big wine drinkers. And on the occasions that they did drink wine, it was, the same pretty inexpensive brands. It wasn't really like exploring wine. So I really didn't have, much knowledge about the industry. When I graduated from college, I got a corporate job and I felt like I was going through the path that I was supposed to go on. Go to college, you get a job, whatever, stable career, stable life. But
right.
I was feeling so unfulfilled in my role. Growing up, I always would say, I don't want to work in a cubicle. I want a different type of job. But then I just found myself literally in a cubicle, wait, this is completely opposite of what I envision my life being like. And I'm so young, I can make a change now. If I don't do it now, later on, it might be harder. So I ended up getting this part-time job doing tastings at local grocery stores, liquor stores. It was through a third-party company. I was an ambassador. I didn't know anything about wine, like I told you. So when people would come and ask me questions, I was like, I literally do not know, guys. you can taste it, and if you like it, buy it. Otherwise, don't ask anything else because I don't know. But I got really curious about wine, and I started doing a little bit more research before the tastings, and I kind of fell into this rabbit hole of wine information. I started taking certification classes, and I was officially bit by the wine bug and kind of haven't looked back since then.
Oh man, I can totally feel that. It's as soon as you start, like if there's any interest at all and you start diving in, I know that feeling of the research. I remember I read one wine book and then I checked out like all the wine books from the library. It's like you can't, once you start learning, you're just like, at least for me, I think it's so cool that it's just never ending. And even in like, I mean, you've gone way further in education than I have. Like, I'm sure you'd say the same thing. Like, there's always more to learn about wine.
Exactly. You will never know everything about wine. And that's sort of the beauty of it. It's like there's always more to learn.
Exactly. No, I think it's just, yeah, wine is so cool. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit more because I think this is so interesting learning about that you started in your corporate job, and especially maybe a little selfishly, I think it's like, that's where I'm at now, where I'm at a 9 to 5, but I'm also working, doing my little side Cork and Fizz wine business thing. And so what was it that was there like one moment that made you feel like I need to dive headfirst into wine and I need to leave this corporate job behind? Or was it kind of like a slow burn?
I think it was definitely a slow burn. It would be just the dread of like driving to work. And then it escalated to the panic attacks in the cubicle. Like, what am I doing? So it really was just a slow burn. And I knew I liked working in wine. I had the part-time job. I also had picked up a part-time job working at a local Maryland winery. So, and I started getting certification. So I was like, once I got the certifications, I was feeling a bit confident. I'm like, I did this. I think I can take a leap of faith. And I saw a posting for a job. I can't remember where I saw it. It was online. I ended up applying to it, and I had already started my social media platform, WINO NOIRE. I was just posting about my wine experiences. So when I would go to a winery, or if I bought a new bottle, when I was taking my wine classes, but I was starting to connect with people who were also in the wine industry, whether it was locally or just really around the world. But there were two people that I was connected with on Instagram who also worked at the company that I had applied for. So I had reached out to them just to ask for a little bit more information. And they were like, I think you'd be a really good fit. Like, I'm going to tell, the hiring manager, the owner of the company, actually, because it was a small distributor. I went in for the interview, got the job. It was a sales rep job, and I just decided to leave my corporate job. It was a really, really scary decision because I went from, getting a 2-week pay, no matter how much work I did or how little work I did, to being completely commission based. So it was a super scary transition for me. I think being young, having the support of my family was what kind of helped me to make the decision. It's like, if anything happens, I can always go home. I can always change my job again. It's not the end of the world. Nobody's depending on me. I have a little bit of a saving, so I'm not going to go hungry at night. So it definitely was a calculated risk, but it didn't make it less scary to make that transition.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's so great. I think the way you put it too, of like, you're like, I knew I had a safety net, but at the same time, like, that safety net was there, but that didn't mean I should like stay in my safe space. Like, I needed to like branch out and do the thing because I had that. So why not? Right. It was more the question rather than like, why should I necessarily?
Exactly. It definitely was. It was more so like, if I don't do it now, when would I do this? Like, what better time than now?
Yeah. Okay. So sounds like, so after you quit the job, it sounded like, or quit the 9 to 5, you did work for a distributor for a while, but now you're more on the education side. And like you said, you kind of created, when did WINO NOIRE kind of become the platform that it is now?
Yeah. So I started the Instagram account while I was still at my corporate job. And as I mentioned, I was not an expert. I was just posting anything. I wasn't really focused on growth of my platform, I was really just out here just doing anything. Honestly, I kind of missed that point of social media when I just kind of did it for fun. Now it's become so much more serious, but I was really just posting. So the platform just started to grow really organically. I was just following a lot of people, engaging with a lot of people. And then once I saw that people were getting paid to do brand campaigns, and when brands started to reach out just to send free wine, I was kind of like, okay, there might be something here, something might be here. So I just started to take it a little bit more seriously. I did some research on social media growth strategies. I started to dive into how can I grow and legitimize this platform. It really just kind of slowly happened over time. It wasn't like one point where I was like, I'm going to take this seriously. But when I started getting free wine, I was like, okay, this is kind of cool.
Right. You're like, yeah, I could get used to this. And then, but then you make that leap too of like, okay, this is great. Thank you for the free wine. And I don't know if like now you have like, I have the problem of like, free wine almost doesn't cut it because I'm like, I have too much wine.
Oh my goodness, absolutely. So early on in my social media journey, I was like, yeah, free wine, free wine. Now I'm like, oh my God, please don't send me any more free wine. I can't take it. But I do think, as a content creator, I do think it is important for creators to kind of start off and do those deals where you don't make any money. You just send campaign, your scent wine or your scent product, and you show that specific brand what you're capable of, but you also show other brands what type of content. Obviously, don't let brands take advantage of you, because that can totally happen where, a brand wants to send you 2 bottles of wine, but they're asking for a full list of deliverables. Like, that is kind of absurd, and it's not fair to the creators, to put in all this work and get nothing in return except a bottle of wine. But early on, I do think, you kind of have to do those. You have to start somewhere.
It's kind of like your internship you do for free, right? Before you like get the job. So like show them what you can do. And it sounds like all this was self-taught. Was there did you work with anyone, or was this kind of all you learned as you went?
Absolutely just learned as I went. I didn't know anybody personally that was doing social media. I was just kind of looking online. There's tons of information online. You kind of have to sift through it, and like there are lots of ideas about strategies, but the information is out there. I'm a student of YouTube University. I follow lots of creators. I always loved YouTube and influencers and things like that. So I've always been interested in the space. Before WINO NOIRE, I didn't know how I was going to be in the space, but it just kind of worked out organically.
Oh, cool. So fun. Okay. Well, I want to shift our conversation just a little bit. I want to talk more about your wino shop. So can you tell a little bit more about what can people expect to find there? Yeah, why don't we just start there and then we'll talk a little bit more.
Yeah, so the wino shop is my baby. I started it in, I think it was like 2020. It was in the midst of the pandemic. It was something that I had wanted to do for a long time, but I was working. I was now, having this little Instagram business that I was trying to build. So I never really had the time to go full in and start a whole new venture. But the pandemic opened up some time for me. So I did a lot of research on how to make shirts and how I can start an apparel business. So really it just started off as me selling apparel. My first 2 shirts to come out of the wino shop were the Future of Wine shirts. I have one that says the future of wine is female, and then I have one that says the future of wine is Black. And I was just selling t-shirts, once like one person bought it, I'm like, okay, I got a hit, so this is legit. But then it kind of grew. I started to create new designs. I put other merchandise in the shop, so accessories and things like that. But really, it's a place for wine lovers to shop. Obviously not for wine, but I had found that the apparel in the market was like a little bit cheesy. I didn't love all of the sparkly bedazzled things that I was finding on the internet, or shirts that were like, I don't know, like promoting overconsumption.
Yes.
I just didn't like that. I didn't think that fit the consumer who really appreciated wine, who loved to travel, who wanted to show their love for wine, but in a, I don't know, like in a more, I don't know the right word for it.
To me, it's like sophisticated in a way.
Almost sounds serious, but truly, like in a more sophisticated way. You didn't want to wear the razzle dazzle or have the cheesy saying. You wanted to show your love for wine in a more sophisticated way.
Well, and I love it too. I have a couple. I think I have the shirt you're wearing now, the Bordeaux, the Burgundy, the French wine regions. I have that, and I have the Future of Wine is Female, and I love it because I love wearing it. Like I wore them to the airport before and having people ask about it, and I think that's really cool because there's a slight hint of education in some of them. And then because it is, like you said, like it's not like all the power to people who like the more like bedazzled, fancy, like wine o'clock or let's grab a glass. Like that's fun. That's great. But there's something about your apparel that just like, I think it clues people into like, I take wine a little more seriously, not like your fancy ass som in a suit, but a little more seriously.
Yes, I'm writing all that down because, like, yes, you described it absolutely perfectly. And the point about people stopping you and asking you, it's truly a conversation starter. And people who appreciate wine and love to learn and explore and travel to wine regions, we love to talk about wine. So it is nice when people come up to you and they're like, what does that say? Ooh, like, have you been to all those places? Or, ooh, I've been to Champagne. Like, I think it's so cool to start those conversations. So it really is a conversation starter.
Yeah, absolutely. And so while we're talking about it, I'm going to add in you. So you're sharing a discount code with the listeners. And so it's Cork and Fizz spelt out, the and spelt out. So Cork and Fizz. And it's 15% off apparel. You get the one use code and it's good through the end of 2023. Make sure I'm saying that all right.
It is, and that's only 2 months. So let me know, like, if people are interested after, we can extend it. Let's get all the Cork and Fizz fam to have some WINO shop apparel.
Yes, I love it. And yes, so head to it's the WINO WINO shop.com and check out. She's got they're really fun designs. I really love them. Like I said, like we say sophisticated, but don't think that means like super serious by any means.
Exactly. You said it perfectly. Not the snobby som in a suit, but just a little more.
Right, exactly. Oh, it's so fun. Yeah, definitely take a look. And then you also said you have some kind of, you've branched out doing more accessories there. Do you add new items a lot, or what's that system kind of like?
Yeah, so I add new items periodically, like a few times a year. So definitely stay tuned to our social media account. Any new drops we always share on Instagram at the WINO Shop.
Cool. All right. Do you ever find yourself standing in front of the wine aisle at the grocery store, feeling completely lost and overwhelmed? Don't worry, you're not alone. But what if I told you that I have a way to transform the wine aisle from overwhelming into an endless sea of joy and discovery? And it involves drinking wine and joining the most welcoming and fun community. In my Cork Crew Virtual Tasting Club, we're all about exploring new and exciting wines in a fun and supportive community. No more feeling intimidated or stuck in a rut of buying the same bottle of wine. Each month, we explore 2 new wines, so you can broaden your palate and explore new flavors. Not only will we taste these wines together, but we'll learn about where the wines come from, essentially traveling the world all through the wine in our glass. Come join the Cork Crew, and you'll have the opportunity to taste new wines, meet winemakers and other wine professionals, and connect with like-minded wine lovers from all over the world. Imagine the joy of discovering a new favorite wine and being able to confidently choose a bottle that you know you'll love. So, why not join us? Head to my website at corkandfizz.com/thecorkcrew to sign up. And don't forget to use code WINE101 to get your first month free. And now, back to the show. Okay, so we're going to take another turn. I want to talk a little bit more about WINO NOIRE. One of your key pillars is to highlight Black and women-owned wine brands. So I kind of just want to give you the space to talk about why that's not only important to you, but also why it's so important in the wine world.
The wine industry is not a super diverse industry. It's no secret. When I first started working in wine and I was a sales rep, it felt a little bit lonely. Like I was pretty young working in the wine industry, so I had that going. I was a woman and then I was Black. So it was just like when I had these kind of negative experiences where I felt like people maybe didn't take me seriously, I'm kind of like, what is it? Like, what is it about me? Why is nobody listening to me? Like, what is the issue here? Or when I would go to wine events and being the only woman or being the only person of color, which unfortunately still happens today, it's kind of like we have to see a change. So I love to promote underrepresented brands, people who work in the wine industry, maybe they don't have a brand, but they do something else, sharing their stories on my platform and just being connected with them and seeing how we can continue to build a more diverse wine community. I think it's so important to have different perspectives. And one of the things that I really love to do is just share my story authentically on my platform to show other people what is possible. When I started working in wine or before I was in wine, I had no idea that any of this existed. I couldn't have even imagined that wine was a full industry because it just wasn't a thing in my house. It wasn't a thing in my community. People weren't talking about it. So I hope that I am just proof that you can do anything, whether it's wine or some other career, but it's possible and there is space for us. And when there isn't space, we still can take it up. We have to create that space and just take up that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, yeah, it doesn't take a genius to look at the wine world and be like, yeah, that's pretty similar across the board. I see a lot of white men and that's about it. Like I think women are starting to make their way in a little bit, but it's still hard. Even when I was learning about wine, I would find that especially being young too, for some reason, I think that stood out as well, that when I would go to wine tastings, people would like assume, right, that like I was just there for the free wine or something, or like still at restaurants, if we order a bottle, I will even order the bottle and they will like look at my husband when they bring the bottle. And I'm like, he doesn't know about this. Like me, you focus on me.
Oh, I think being young definitely plays a big role in it. But like, think about it. A lot of wine events are not fun for young people. It's a bunch of like snobby, super serious people who are dressed in super fancy outfits, talking about wine regions that we can't pronounce. And it just doesn't, it's not a super inviting environment. So there's a lot of statistics going on right now about how younger people are not drinking as much, not drinking as much wine. And I just urge brands to like, look in the mirror. Like, why do you think that's happening? I'm sure there are a lot of reasons. People are more health conscious now, for sure. But think about it. If young people are not reflected in the marketing, if they go to your events and they're not fun and they don't feel welcome, why would they choose this beverage over a beer that's way more fun? Or I feel like the industry is just it's just like it's more inviting, it's more fun, So
Yes.
let's call spade a spade. Like we have to create a space where diverse people want to be in it.
Yeah. And I think it goes to show that like anytime you do start making anything more diverse, is you gain so much benefit from it, right? Like there's so much we're missing by not having more people of color in the wine world and like sharing their experience and their culture to it, right? And the same with like women, you're missing out on, certain things. And so I think it's something where like, yes, you want to create the space for the people and help them, but also recognize that it helps you as well, and that it continues to, just like you said, expand and just make it a like more fun space.
Exactly. Like it's wine. It is literally a beverage that people drink to enjoy. Like let's create the space to do
Right?
that.
Yes, exactly. I love it.
Have fun with it.
Yes. So I did want to talk a little bit about in your Instagram bio, and you mentioned too that you're certified and you're a WSET diploma student. First off, what does that mean? And what does it entail? Why did you choose to go down the WSET route for your education? I know it was like 3 questions. So just from the beginning, tell us what WSET diploma is.
Yeah, so WSET stands for Wine and Spirit Education Trust. It's a London-based educational body that gives certifications to people interested in wine. There are 4 levels, 1, 2, and 3, and then the 4th level is the diploma. So I am working on the final level of the certification program. I discovered WSET early on in my wine journey when I was doing those wine tastings and I didn't know anything. So I ended up probably online, or, I probably saw some people that I was connected with that had these certifications. So I found a school in DC, Capital Wine School, and I just started taking the certifications. It ended up being really, really fun just being in spaces with other people that were interested in wine in the classroom setting. I chose that program because I love the classroom learning aspect of it, going in person, tasting the wine together. So that seemed like a right fit for me, doing those tastings, and then even also being a sales rep, having that theory knowledge about why a wine tastes the way it does or how the wine is made. That was helpful for me. There are tons of other bodies that people can study through, educational bodies. The Court of Master Sommeliers, CMS, is another one. But I found that program focused a lot more on service. And I knew I didn't want to work in a restaurant and be a floor somm. So I chose not to go the CMS route. I don't think that one is better than the other. I think if you want to take wine certification classes, just think about what your end goal is, what you like to do, and pick that way. WSET just seemed to be the right fit for me. And now I even teach WSET classes. I teach levels 1 and 2 with Napa Valley Wine Academy, and they're online, which, I love the aspect of going in person, being in a class or meeting other students. But I have found teaching that the online classes work really well. We send out small bottles to people taking the class. So you still get to taste the same wine as everybody. You do it from your home, so you don't have to spit the wine if you don't want to. You can actually drink it because you're at home. And we also have communities where you can engage with the class online. So I think it's cool. Again, there's so many options, whether you want to do it in person, online, if you want to go one route or other, there's so many options for getting formal education in the wine industry.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I did WSET as well, kind of for the same reason, where I was like, yeah, I was a waitress back in high school and I didn't like it. I don't really ever plan to work in a restaurant in that way ever again. So I'm like, we'll pass on the whole, which way do you walk around the table and make sure the bottle's facing this way? I'm like, I never need to know that. That's okay.
Honestly, I'm just way too anxious of a person to do it. Like, I would spill wine on people every day. I'd be having to pay tons of dry cleaning bills. Okay.
Yeah, it would never work. So yeah, WSET's the way to go. I did mine through Napa Valley Wine Academy. I think I did it during the pandemic. So like virtual is pretty much the only option, but I couldn't agree more. I think it's a good choice. It's especially nice for like when you have that limited time, right? And I think it was a lot of like kind of at your own pace kind of training, which was really nice, except for, those few you could join live, but you could also watch the recording later. Worked really well. And then, so my understanding, 1 and 2, there's just a test at the end, like a 50-question test. It's more like theory based or understanding that. Third one introduces a tasting portion. Yep. What about the diploma? Is there anything added into that? What does that entail?
So the diploma is similar to level 3, where you have a tasting, you have a theory where you have to write a paper, and that's it. So no multiple choice. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I've taken 3 of the exams. There's 6 total. So diploma split up into 6 parts. I know. But the really good thing about it being split up into 6 parts is that each part has a certain subject. So you can really focus in on just the one subject. So I've already done the business of wine, viticulture, and winemaking, and then fortified wines. So you really just get to focus in on one part. You don't have to remember everything all at the same time. There is one unit where it is just a written paper, kind of like a thesis paper. So that's an additional part that you don't have to do at the other levels.
Cool. Okay, that's fun. It was fun learning about that. I was always curious. I'm like, I know it's like a little more, there's quite a bit more to it, especially,
It really is. The studying leading up to an exam, for me at least, is super intense. It's a lot of information that you have to be able to remember. And it's not enough just to memorize all the facts. You really have to start putting the pieces together and thinking about why a wine tastes the way it does and being able to assess a wine's quality and talk about what winemaking techniques might have been used on a wine. And you don't even know what the wine is. So it's quite a lot of work. A lot of people take at least 2 years. I think I'm almost at 2 years. Like I said, I finished half. I just have to get in the right mindset to take it home.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. I'm like, as soon as I like graduated from college, I'm like, I'm never doing schooling again. Like, I can't handle this pressure. I did do the WSET too, which to be fair, because I'd done so much like learning already, like on the side, I was like, okay, this actually isn't too bad. Like, it's multiple choice questions. But yeah, from there, I think the blind tasting would get me, or just that tasting and like having to, be able to describe, because I think that's the area where I'm like the least confident, because it is, like you said, I mean, I think it just takes practice. And then that's, to me, sometimes it's like the practicing, you're practicing tasting, so you're like, oh no, tasting wine is not as much fun anymore when it's studying.
Tell me about it. Listen, when I'm in study mode, I'm like, I want anything but wine right now. Like, drink anything except wine. And then every time you pick up a glass of wine, your mind is just like, oh, what's the tannin level? Oh, what's the acidity? Like, doing all the tricks and stuff. And it's like, you're at dinner. Just drink the wine. Like, it's really okay. You don't have to think about it much. But that's what happened. You can't help it.
Oh, that's funny. It's like that thing where like, do you accidentally swirl things that aren't wine sometimes because you're so used to it?
Exactly. It's like,
you get in the mode. I love it. Okay, so I have just a couple questions left, but I did want to ask about the wine scene in Maryland. Are you still based in Maryland? What's the wine scene like?
yeah, so I am based in Maryland. I'm born and raised in Maryland. I lived for a year in LA, which was so much fun, but I wanted to come back home. So I've been back home for a little over a year now, living in Maryland. And it was really a cool experience to get reconnected with the scene, because I feel like so much about my life had changed since moving to LA, and my love for wine just grew. So I wanted to come home and really find the wine people here again. Like, what's the scene like? And honestly, the DMV has the best wine scene. The people are amazing. I love going to wine events here because I'm always going to know somebody. I'm always going to meet somebody new, whether it's a wine festival, a wine dinner, a wine tasting. There is such a tight knit community here that continues to grow. There's amazing tasting groups in DC for people who are wanting to study and take wine more seriously, or there are tons of other people who are just doing it for fun and not doing serious tastings. We have some great restaurants with great wine lists, some great wine bars, especially in DC and even Baltimore. So I think the wine scene here is great. I love it. I'm just so excited. Even Maryland wine. There's so many wineries here in Maryland and Virginia. Virginia has a phenomenal wine scene. So no matter what you like to do or where you are in your wine journey, I think the DMV really does have a place for you.
Oh, that's cool. That's good to know. I definitely need to get over there. I have some friends that are in Virginia and now some friends in Maryland to check out, because I've had some Virginia wine. I've yet to try Maryland wine. What do you think of, like, does it chalk up to a lot of the wines here?
So you can't compare it, I don't think. I don't think it's fair to compare it to other wine regions. I think you have to look at it for what it is. It's a growing wine industry. And then being here for a long time, it's really cool to see the improvements year after year. More brands are coming in, more knowledge spreading is happening. So the wine just continues to get better and better. But I don't like to compare. You just gotta take it for what it is. But there's plenty to enjoy here. And all up and down the East Coast, really, the Finger Lakes is one of my favorite regions. Oh my God, it's so beautiful there. So many wineries, just really, really great wine. And outside of Riesling too, like everybody thinks New York, Finger Lakes, just Riesling, but they're making great Cab Franc, Limburger, just so many amazing wines coming out of the Finger Lakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think East Coast is a good spot to reach out to. All right, last question before I get to I do like a little mini speed round at the end. It's just like questions that I ask every guest. Don't worry, you don't have to like answer super fast. But I just want to ask what's next for you? Is there anything new on the horizon?
Such a good question. I think I'm at a point where I'm trying to figure out what's next for me. I love everything that I do. I love teaching. I love the wino shop. I would like to see the wino shop grow. We have a few wholesale accounts. So we're in a shop in New York. We're in a shop in Virginia, in Northern Virginia. So I would love to see the wino shop in some places around the country. I think that would be really cool opportunity for the wino shop just to get some new stuff and get some new faces, loving the brand. And then social media, I've continued to post on social media. I have some really exciting partnerships coming up on social media. So if you're not following, definitely check out WINO NOIRE on Instagram. But yeah, I think as for now, I'm just taking everything that I have here and just trying to handle it all, you know?
That's perfectly fine.
You know, I can be super ambitious, but I think I'm in a really good place. And I think there are some opportunities to grow with what I have going. Obviously, finishing the diploma is on my short-term goals list. So we'll see.
Well, I'm excited. We'll just have to follow along, right? Kind of follow your journey.
Share pretty much everything. So if you're interested, follow me because you're going to get it.
Oh, too fun. Okay. All right. So like I said, this is just kind of a speed round, and I call it a speed round just in the sense of like, don't think too hard on it, because these questions would be very hard if you like tried to like come up with the absolute best answer. So they're just kind of fun. So starting out, this one's probably the hardest, but your favorite wine at the moment.
Ooh, my favorite wine at the moment. So it's fall. I love fall. I'm loving all things Beaujolais right now. I feel like when I think of fall, I immediately associate it with lighter red wines like Beaujolais. So that's what I'm loving right now.
Okay, good answer. I love it. Yes. It's such like a perfect Thanksgiving wine too. It's like prepping you in for winter, and then you can start shifting to your little bolder reds.
Literally, my birthday is on Thanksgiving. So I love Thanksgiving. It's on Thanksgiving this year. But I do agree. It's the perfect Thanksgiving wine.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, now how about a favorite wine region that you've visited?
Ooh, I recently got back from Portugal, from the Douro Valley with a pork producer, Symington Family Estates. It was so beautiful. So beautiful. I mean, I've been to a lot of wine regions. Thankfully, I've had the privilege to travel quite a bit around the world. Portugal, I mean, just breathtaking views. The incline of the vineyards is just so crazy to see. It really makes you appreciate your wine a bit more when you see the work that goes into creating it. So I have to say Portugal is top of mind right now, but Tuscany also is another region that I love and I think is really, really beautiful.
So cool. You are not the first person that's like talked very highly of Portugal. It's funny because it's not always at the top of my list of like where I think I need to go, but it's definitely making its way up there now.
And if you go, you have to do like a river cruise and just go down the Douro River. It's breathtaking, honestly.
Cool. Okay. Adding to the bucket list now. Okay, so now this one might actually be your hardest one, since I know you travel a lot and you share about those travels on Instagram, and I love watching those. How about a wine region you'd like to visit that you haven't been to yet?
There's so many. Oh, okay. I got to give you three. I really want to go to South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand. I haven't been down under, so I definitely want to visit. Those are probably top three.
Okay, yeah. No, that's a great point too, because I feel like it'd be such a different atmosphere. Have you been to South America at all? Have you been to Chile or Argentina yet?
Yeah, I've been to Chile and Argentina earlier this year. Both were just, again, beautiful, beautiful regions. It's hard to rank them. They're all really amazing places.
No, anytime you just find yourself in the middle of wine country, it just seems like the best place to be.
I know, it really is.
Okay, great choices. All right, now how about your like favorite wine and food pairing? Again, it can just be kind of at the moment.
Okay, what is my favorite food and wine pairing? I would say something basic. One thing that I hate about wine pairings is that if you look at the wine pairings that come on tech sheets or that are recommended by a brand, they can be so obscure, like duck confit with this wine. It's like, I'm never going to make that unless I'm at a restaurant. It's not happening. So I would say takeout and wine, like French fries and champagne, yes, or spaghetti and Chianti Classico, like something realistic. I can make a spaghetti in 20 minutes, but I can elevate it with a really good bottle of wine. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh no. Such a great answer. I couldn't agree more. I always love like when you look up like the fancy wine pairings and I'm like at home I make like pasta and like a sheet pan dinner with chicken sausage. Like I need to know what pairs with that, not what pairs with like this fancy ass dish that takes like 2 hours to make because I'm not making that.
Exactly. So I pick something super basic like that, like takeout food or spaghetti, pizza.
Yes. Yep. You're like, because then it's like easy because it's great because I'm not having to make the food and then I just have a great bottle of wine with it. Like, perfect.
Exactly.
All right. Last question. What would you say if somebody asked you they were looking for a bottle of wine, but they needed to stay under a budget? They're trying to stay under, like, let's say $15. Where would you point them? What kind of style of wine would be like a good bet for under $15?
Ooh, under 15, I say look to Spain or Portugal. I feel like you get such good value from those two places and probably some other ones, but those are the ones that come top of mind for me. And one thing, when I'm making a recommendation, I truly do hate to give a specific producer. There are so many producers that I love, but I want to empower the wine consumer to just explore and don't be so like brand loyal with distribution laws and how the 3-tier system works. It's like you can't always find a certain producer depending on where you are. So get out of your comfort zone, find a style of wine you like, and then go from there. See what other producer you can discover. So if you had a stay under 15, you're probably ruling out a lot of really good California wines if you're trying to stay under 15. So I would say look to Spain, Portugal, or try it locally. All 50 states makes wine. So at a lot of places, you could probably find some wine at a local winery that might fall under that budget. So those are my.
That's a good suggestion. I haven't thought about that, but yes, like your local winery, you're going to find something either that or it might be like $5 more, but you can trust it because one, you get to taste it if you go to your local winery.
Exactly.
And it's just nice to know that like, you know, you're supporting one of the local ones.
Exactly.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you so much. That was my speed round. Thank you for joining for the podcast. Anything else you want to share before we go?
No, Haley, this has been so much fun. I'm so excited to see this show come together and share it because it's such a fun conversation. And yeah, I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you again, Desiree, for joining. Everybody else, go check her out at WINO NOIRE, WINO NOIRE. Did I spell that right? Find her there and go check out the wine shop. Again, you've got the Cork and Fizz discount code to use. So yeah, thanks again, Desiree. It was so wonderful chatting with you. Wine people are just so wonderful, aren't they? Oh, Desiree was so easy to talk to. Definitely go check her out. If you're not already, be sure to follow her on Instagram at WINO NOIRE, WINO NOIRE. And be sure to check out her blog, winonoir.com. And if you're looking for some fun wine apparel or accessories, check out her website, thewinoshop.com. Use code CORKANDFIZZ for 15% off apparel. If you love this episode as much as I did, I would so appreciate it if you could take a really quick second, just open up your app on your phone, take a screenshot, and share that screenshot to social media. You can tag me at Cork and Fizz and just invite others to check out the podcast. Also appreciate it if you could rate it and leave a review if you haven't yet. In next week's episode, I will be going through my holiday gift guide. It is about that time, and everybody is looking for unique and fun gifts. And as a wine lover myself, I know of plenty of fun wine gifts beyond just a bottle of wine. So I'll be sharing everything from wine subscriptions to accessories to gadgets to books and everything you can think of. I'll have a whole written guide that will be coming out the same day, but during the podcast, I'll be sharing some of my favorites with you and maybe a couple stories behind them. Of course, be sure to follow me on Instagram at @CorkandFizz. This is the place where I will be collecting questions and doing polls for the podcast. Thanks again for listening, and as a thank you, I'd love to share my free shopping guide, 15 wines under $15. Simply head to my website, corkandfizz.com, scroll down to the bottom, and join my mailing list. Cheers!